Hello, good morning, and welcome to another hard-hitting episode of Creepy Cheapies with Dr. Lady. All you mask fans, I'm Sammy Davis Broiler Chicken, and today's mask is one that I came upon rather by accident. I was watching a not at all good film that I guess came out back in 2015. It was called In the Dark. Yeah, and there have been, how many hundreds of movies called In the Dark. This was one of them. Not to be confused with Out of the Dark, or just The Dark, or Out in the Dark, or In from Out of the Dark, or Over There Where It's Darker Than It Is Right Here, or any of those other films. This particular In the Dark was made of several short films put together into one big mess, but it did have some redeeming qualities here and there, and I'm glad that I was awake during the part at which a mad slasher in an extremely cool mask showed up, and I was so taken with the mask. I thought, wow, that is one great looking mask. What mask was it, you ask? Well, it was this one, which it turns out, I later learned, turns out is called simply Ventriloquist Dummy. Doesn't have any particular name like Slappy or Chucky or Shecky or anything. No, it's just Ventriloquist Dummy. Now, I was watching this movie In the Dark. You can make your own joke there. I was watching this movie In the Dark. What was it called? No. I was watching this movie, and when the maniac in this mask turned up, I just thought, wow, that's such a great mask. Look at that. And most of the movie was not exactly high art, but the scenes and the shots in which this mask featured were pretty impressive. It looked good from every angle, every view. The way they lit it and photographed it, it just looked really cool. And I wondered who made that mask, and where can you get one? And it turns out it had been available since 2013 from the folks at the Horror Dome, and I just hadn't seen it. I hadn't encountered it, but it was around since 2013. It was sculpted by a fellow named Joe Lester, and sadly, he is no longer with us. He passed away several years ago. I didn't know Joe Lester, but I will tell you that I know he sculpted this, for one thing, because that's what I was told by the people at Horror Dome, and another way I know is because you probably can't see it, but in very tiny letters on the back flap here, it actually says the name Joe Lester. And well, I'm sorry I didn't get to tell him in person what a marvelous job he did with this mask. This kind of effect has been done many, many times, of course, with crazy, smiling, laughing characters. People have done clowns and masks of the Joker and other masks of ventriloquist dummies and things like that. I don't think I've ever seen it done as well as this one, and that is largely due to the design, which has this really crazy arch to the eyebrows, and the eyebrows are much higher than they would be naturally, and the way the eyes are painted is really cool. Let's see if we can zoom in even better on those eyes. Can you? That's probably all out of focus, isn't it? Is that in focus? I don't know, but he's a cool looking monstrosity, this guy. He is disturbing. He is so crazy and having so much fun. He just can't wait to kill you. It's going to be the funniest thing ever to him to kill you, and that's pretty disturbing. And part of the reason I think this is so cool is, I hope you can tell in close up, is that it's sculpted to look like he's carved out of wood. So there are these vertical lines running up and down here, these vertical striations that look like wood grain, and the hair especially is very effective in as much as it looks like it could be carved out of wood. It has the perfect texture and paint job to look like carved wood. Now obviously if you start stretching it and flopping it around, you can tell it's rubber, but when it's still, when it's at rest, it really could pass for something carved out of wood. Oddly, the pictures on the Horror Dome website make it look more pink than this, and you might not even get how wood-like it appears to be from looking at those photos, because they look a little more organic. But the fact that it has the obvious carved look, like it started out as a dummy, and yet it has very realistic and lifelike eyes staring down at you, make it a really unique and weird character. And as you can see, he's got the the cuts here that you would expect a ventriloquist dummy to have, where the jaw would be a separate piece. It's not a separate piece, it's just part of the design to make it look like a ventriloquist dummy. And he's got very yellow teeth with a little bit of green along the gum line. Just really cool and really weird, and I think one of the more disturbing and freaky masks of the era. And I'm sorry that Mr. Joe Lester, who sculpted this, is no longer with us. Apparently he only ever did one other mask for Horror Dome, and that one was called Rot the Clown. And it's kind of sort of stitched down the middle, and one half looks like a clown and the other half looks like a zombie. I prefer this one, although that one is very nicely sculpted as well. I don't know what else Joe Lester might have done over the years that we might have in our collections, but wow, he gets full marks for this one, because this is just a super creepy, super scary mask. And you could wear it with just about anything, and obviously it would look good on a dummy on the porch at Halloween, because it's a dummy, you big dummy. Yeah, very cool thing. Get yourself a Horror Dome ventriloquist dummy mask. Oh, and last time I checked, they were selling for, I believe, $67.99 American dollars on the Horror Dome website. And also belongs in your slasher mask collection if you collect slasher masks. Ow! Hey! Slasher masks.